everyone, welcome to my channel, your go-to destination for anything data on Google Cloud. Today we are building a workshop on AI-powered real-time stock analysis pipeline on Google. The workshop is straightforward. We have a dedicated repo that contains all the information that we'll be using while building our pipeline. Let's get straight into it. These are some of the things you'd learn in this workshop, such as using Cloud Scheduler, using the Gemini 3.0 Pro, using Dataflow, and also using a Streamlit app to visualize our data. This is our fintech architecture, and to explain the fintech architecture, I'm just going to use a walkthrough. So we have a Cloud Scheduler job that runs every minute. So when it gets triggers every minute, it triggers a pops up ingestion trigger. And what the pops up ingestion trigger is going to do is to trigger the cloud function. So from the cloud function, we have the cloud function is going to fetch data from our external API. In this case, we are using Yahoo Finance. After fetching the data, Gemini is going to get some insights from the data that is fetched and also going to populate that. So it returns a function containing the data generated from Yahoo Finance and the insights from Gemini. It returns it in a JSON format, and it sends the JSON format to another pops up topic. So from here, the pops up topic now feeds a Dataflow pipeline. So Dataflow pipeline helps us with a lot of aggregation, such as our 1 minute aggregation, our 5 minute simple moving average, the volume detection spike, and also latency to see how fast our data is entering. Then thereafter, we write the data to BigQuery. Then from BigQuery, you could decide to view it on Looker, or just like we do in this lab, we'll also connect to a Streamlit app so that we can view our data from there. And our data are not just kept. So the workflow is simple. This is also another diagram that could help you. This is more detailed a bit, and it could help you in understanding what we are doing. So let's get started, which is the major thing why we are here. Let's go straight into work. So for the first thing is we have to set up our Google Cloud to prepare our environment. So here I am on my Google Cloud environment. Then I can activate my Cloud Shell from here. So make sure that on your environment you have billing enabled. So here I have to replace your project ID with my actual project ID. So I'm just going to replace this. After replacing this, I can copy it from here. So copy it from here, press the value here. Let's navigate back to the end. Then click on enter. So we've updated our property. The next thing is to set our variables, some of our variables that we'll be using, like project ID and region. For this part, you don't need to change anything. Just click on enter. That's configured it, so you can see using our project ID. This is project ID, and the region we are using here is US Central 1. So the next thing we need to do is to configure our Google AI Studio API key, because we are using Gemini 3.0 Pro model here, and it's currently in preview. You could only access it for AI Studio or Gemini CLI for some selected users. So I'm going to need my API key. For you to get your API key, you have to go to the AI Studio. So when you go to AI Studio, aistudio.google.com, the instruction is fairly laid out here. So you click your Get API key, and you will come to this part. So this is mine. I've created my API key, and I can just copy it. So go back to my Cloud Shell, then I've just come here and replace my Google API key with my API key in the process. So I'm going to skip this part so you don't get to see my API key. Yeah, so that's about that. The next thing is to enable the required Google APIs. So we'll be using a bunch of APIs for our workflow today. We'll be using the storage, BigQuery, Cloud Function, Cloud Build, logins, pops up, Dataflow, Cloud Scheduler, and the AI platform. So it's necessary you enable the required API so that you don't enter into any access error while working. Click on this and enables the required API. Then after that, let's grant permission to the Dataflow service account. So Dataflow needs to do something like pushing to a pops up topic and also ingesting data into our BigQuery. So for it to do all those things, it has to have the required permission to undergo those particular tasks. So that is why we are giving it the pops up subscriber role. You could subscribe to a topic and get information from that topic. it has data editor permission, which means it could just data into our BigQuery. So let's copy this, place it here, then click Enter. So you see that it's going to grant the required access, and all the access that are needed are being granted here. So the next thing, which is the section 2, is to create our cloud resources. Some of the cloud resources we'll be using here are cloud storage bucket, where we can store the information of our data inside. We'll also create a BigQuery dataset and table. So this will be our major storage of the information coming from Yahoo Finance. After it has gone through Dataflow, the final package information will be stored in a cloud storage bucket. We'll also create a PubSub subscription, which is one of the core of our application. We have a stock ingestion trigger, which triggers the cloud function. And after the cloud function has done its work, we also have a stock data enriched topic, whereby the data has been enriched from the cloud function and Gemini API. And we have a subscription. This subscription fits our data flow. So all these are stuff that we really need. So let's start from 2.1 and just copy everything. So this creates our bucket for us. If you want to see the bucket that was created, you could go to cloud storage, and from cloud storage you could go to bucket. So this is the bucket we just created. So let's keep going. Let's set up our BigQuery dataset and table. So let's copy and this should create our dataset for us. So it's created our dataset and created our table. If you want to find what we created, you could go to BigQuery, then from BigQuery, and when you click on this, you could see the stock market data that we have here. So this is our data set and this is our table. So if you can't find your own, you can just refresh the browser and you'll see it. So these are all the schemas that we are going to be using in our BigQuery table. You can also do a preview, and currently there's no data because we've not started pushing any information into our table. So let's keep going. Let's go to the next step. And the next step is to create our PubSub topic and subscription. So you can copy this command line. So copying the command line, paste it here, and it's going to help us to create our topic and also the necessary subscription that we'll be using. So you can see setting it, and we can go to our PubSub, go to PubSub, we'll see the topic we created, and we'll also see the subscription that we have. So here are the two topics we track this down a bit. Here are the two topics we created. When we click into subscription, we should also see our subscription. So this is the subscription that we have. Alright, let's go to the next instruction. So we are now on section 3, and section 3 is where the ingestion really happens, and we are getting to the interesting part. So we have to have done this function in a way whereby harnessed everything together, and you can just copy this command line and you'll be fine. So let's copy it before we do some explanation on what is going on. So click on this and copy it. Come to your Cloud Shell and just paste it. After pasting, then click on enter. So if you click on enter, let's view our command. So this is going to make a directory for us, then create some files in those directory, and also populate the content in those files. So let's open the editor and let's take a look. So this is our folder. This is the folder we created, and this is everything in our folder. And so it may take a while for your editor to set up. I fast forwarded it, and I'm here. So this is our main.py, which really contains everything our function needs to get started. So let's do a bit explanation into what we have here. So I'm using a lazy logic, which is to just have the necessary imports for my cloud function to start. So I don't want my cloud function to enter into some errors because it's taking a while for all the imports to happen. So I'm using like a lazy import. So after the function has started, all the necessary imports that I now need are going to happen. So just using the necessary things that are required for my function to get started, we get here. So doing the lazy logic here so that it does not crash. And this is where we are just speaking from some of the environmental variables we set already. Our product ID, the data topic, the Google API key we also set. And yeah, so that's all what happened here. So what is going on here is that these are the tickers that we're interested in. So here you can change the tickers to get to the tickers that you are more excited about. But I'm excited about this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So sort of the magnificent 7. So if you want to use, you could use some other localized stocks that you're interested in. but typically stocks in the US stocks. Also, what is happening here is that because the market does not run 24/7, and when you are deploying your workshop or when you are working on a workshop, the market may not be running, or you may be in a different time zone from the US market time zone, and you just want this workshop to work. So what I'm doing here is getting a 5-day period data and using an interval of 1 minute. So which means is that it's going to get the 5 days data at every point in time, but it's going to pick the latest available time among those 5 days interval data that he has, and that's what it's going to populate. So which help us to make sure that at every point in time we have data that we are currently using. And yeah, that's about that. So this is just adding up the function, really what we need. So we are using some multi-index here, and this is the generative AI batch. So the generative AI, we are writing a prompt to Gemini 3 Pro preview. You can see it in preview at the moment. At the point that you may be doing this, it may be in GA. This is the prompt we are using. We are telling it to act as a senior technical assistant for the technology sector, provide the current price, volume data for this magnificent 7 tech companies, the tech giants. We are asking it to analyze the price, action, volatility, and recent momentum for each of the ticker. And the output that we want is to see the pattern and trend. We want it to give us a trend score, either -1, which means strong bearish, and 2 + 1, which means strong bullish. So after that, it's going to return a JSON object where the keys and values are summarized and everything is here. So that's what is going in, and this is really the AI part. This is the prompt that we're using. You can see that the prompt is in pure English. So this one, we are using some safety sets. I don't want Gemini to block any response from happening. So I'm telling it to block none, because when you're dealing with financial data, Gemini may decide not to return information to you. So I'm asking it to specifically block none, because I want it to return information. And of course, every information it gives you are not a financial. This is the message JSON. So this is how it's going to return the information to our pop-up topic. This is what it's going to get passed to our pop-up topic. And yeah, that's it. Just all the things we are going on our function. And the function is one of the core parts of our workshop here. So these are the requirements. These are the things that we need, the requirement files for our function to work. So let's go back to our terminal and let's keep up. So we've copied all these. Now I've done a bit of an explanation. So let's deploy our function. So let's come back to our cloud, deploy our function, click on enter. So it's going to deploy our function for us, and it may take a while. I'm just going to fast forward it and see you at the next place. Yes, so here we are, and our function has been deployed. So it took a while for the functions to get deployed, and that's because it's a serverless product, and when you deploy a function, it could be on for as long as you want, and it's just going to be there. So the initial deployment takes a bit of time, and typically 3 to 5 minutes or thereabouts. And you can view your function here. So if you want to, this is the URL. If you want to view the function that we created, you just have to go to function, and let's go to our cloud run functions. So this is the function we created. When we click on that, this is here. So this is the function we just created, and it should start getting data in some minutes. So, but we are not done, and we should do some other things, because we need to set up our Dataflow pipeline. So the next step, this section, which is to create the Dataflow pipeline. And just as I did in the cloud function parts, I've also made the function easy to copy. So you can just copy from here. After copying, then paste here, then click on enter. Then after we've gotten this, we could also go to the editor again and view our function that we just created. So you can see that now we have more stuff here. This is the Dataflow pipeline. Just going to remove this. So this is the Dataflow pipeline. This is the folder I created for us, and these are the files we have in the folder. So this is our Docker file, which contains the image we need for our Dataflow pipeline to just to work. So this is a metadata that we are creating for our, just give information about our Dataflow template, the one we are using in this case. So this is a custom template, and we are building it from scratch. So the pipeline.py, which is the major Dataflow pipeline function. Of course, we are using Apache Beam. This is the necessary imports that we are using. This is our input subscription, and this is our output. So we are telling the Dataflow the input and output part of the pipeline which we configured here. And in this case, we are using a volume history. So while we are using a volume history, we're trying to make Dataflow stateful. So typically, Dataflow is stateless, which means that it does not keep history. But we are trying to make it stateful. So we are passing a sort of a volume history to keep the last 10 minutes history of data, which means that around 10:01, at 10 o'clock, it has information from the past 10 minutes. But at 10:01, it has information from past 10 minutes from 10:01, which means it's going to remove the 1 minute that would have been added as at 10 o'clock. So this is just to have like a volume history of what we are doing, and each of them comes with volume history. So these are some of the things that we are using. So we are doing some processing here. We want to get the total volume in 1 minute. We also want to calculate the average of historical volumes. We want to determine if it's a spike. So the way we determine if it's a spike is if the average volume in 10 minutes times 2 is greater than the current volume. And I think, of course, we are doing a check. The average volume should be greater than 0, so that we are not doing a multiplication on 0. And add the current volume to the history to keep the list of the max of 10 items. So this is just to keep some history of our tickers so that we can use. And this is the output tool. This is how the output tool looks like. This is system latency for those of us who are data engineers who may want to see how fast the data is coming. So we have that here. This is the final output row, and this is just doing some data flow processing to get some of the things that we need, like the latest price, the highest price in 1 minute, the total volume in 1 minute, and total value in 1 minute. And we also have the AI settlement and AI summary. All these are just coming directly from the function that is getting, so from the topic that Dataflow is consuming from. So we are calculating the 5 minutes moving average, so that at every point in time we have the 5 minutes moving average to get the information, similar to what we did above. And after that, that's the major thing. The rest are just figuring stuff and grouping by the necessary key, so that each information is coming per ticker. So Tesla information is not getting mixed up into the Microsoft one or the Google stock. And yeah, this is everything we have. And we also write back to our BigQuery. Yes, so this is about that. The requirements are just Apache Beam, GCP one, and Google Cloud Storage. Let's go back to our class, and we've done this as you can suggest. The next thing is to deploy our Dataflow pipeline. Also, we have the command here. So just come back here, paste this, then click on enter, and it's going to help us deploy our Dataflow pipeline. So this is also going to take some bits for it to get deployed, because it has to deploy a lot of things under the hood and set up our Dataflow pipeline. And also the Dataflow pipeline can be running for as long as we want. So I'm using a streaming pipeline here. So it's going to keep running until maybe it encounters an error or I decide to cancel it. And of course, if you leave it running for so long, you could wrap up some build. Yeah, so here we have our Dataflow pipeline has been deployed between 3 to 5 minutes also, like I mentioned before. And the next thing for us to do is to create our cloud scheduler job. So this is the cloud scheduler job we are creating, and we are telling it to run every minute. So let's create our cloud scheduler job. Okay, so it's going to create that for us. I think it has created it already. So I did not show us the Dataflow pipeline we created, so I can just do that now. So this is our Dataflow pipeline, and this is what we are creating. It is still queued, so it's going to get starting in a few minutes. So we can also view our cloud scheduler. So this is the cloud scheduler, and we can view what we have in the scheduler. So this is it, and it has also not run because it is not 1 minute already. But we can do a trigger, so we can do a manual trigger here, and I can just do a manual trigger. You know, our Dataflow pipeline is not up, so data may not be connecting yet, but let's just trigger it. Done it, I can refresh this, and you can see a trigger has been done, and these are the details. Alright, so we typically need to wait for our Dataflow to get up and running. Just going back there, still queued. So yours may be queued for a bit, but the statuses are going to change. So I'm just going to, it's starting already. Okay, if you go back, it's starting already. So I'm just going to fast forward this till it gets to running, and I'll come back. So here we are. My Dataflow pipeline is now running, and you can see it's running here. Interesting. So it's running. You could click on it to view some of the things that are here. So this is the pipeline, and this is everything it's doing. So this, you could also use this to understand it a bit. Read from pops up, it decode the JSON from pops up, it had timestamp, so I could have some history about it. It creates a key based on the ticker, it maps the price, create a 5-minute sliding window, the 1-minute sliding window, create a 5-minute simple moving average, group by the ticker, a format by the simple moving average. It windows the simple moving average, it calculates the mean average, and it joins all the metrics. After joining it matches the metrics together, detect volume spike if there is any, then format for BigQuery, then write to BigQuery. So that's a bit of all the things that I explained in the high level. So the next thing is we can start to check if our data is on BigQuery yet. So this is our BigQuery. So if you are unable to see the full information from BigQuery, you could just refresh the browser. So this is our stock market data, and this is the table we created real-time analysis we showed you before. And when we showed you before, it was empty. Let's see if data have started coming. See? Oh, nice. So data are coming in already. And for each ticker, we have the timestamp, the latest price, the highest price, the sentiment, and a summary of it. So doing this, like viewing this information on BigQuery, it's a bit stressful, especially if you're not technical, or for some of you who don't want to maybe give BigQuery access to everybody. You don't want people to come here and view it on BigQuery. So that is why we added another step to this workshop, which is to create an application, a Streamlit application, whereby it's going to get the information from me and show it on a sort of like a website. And the website is deployed on CloudRun. So let's set up that so that it makes our life easier. Alright, so we're here, go back to and these are some data you could run this. So if you are excited about SQL, you could run some of these data to just do some information or do some random checks on the application. I'm just going to run this, so done this, and it's going to give me the information. So particular, giving me the average sentiment and the average. So this data just started coming in, so most information are not here populated, but if you wait some bits, you'll see how the data changes from time to time. Alright, so let's keep going. So the next thing we want to do is let's visualize the results with a web application. Like I mentioned, we're using Streamlit. We don't want to keep this fantastic result on BigQuery or have issues with people who don't have access to BigQuery for them to access our data. So the same way, package everything in a single command for you to just copy. So after copy, come here, paste it here, then click on that. So let's go to this is our editor here. So here is our once again, and this is the new one we just added, the front-end app. So for the front-end app, it has a app.py and it also has a Docker file, which would help us spin up the necessary thing for us to get our application running. Okay, so the app.py, what's going on here? These are the imports that we are using. We are using out here for us to do some graphs. We are using Panda also. So these are the configurations that we need to do, getting the project ID, the dataset ID, and the table ID, because it's reading the result from. So this is the type of the dashboard, and these are just everything. So we are doing some sample queries for you to populate some information. So this is some sample queries and data for all tickers. So I'm limiting this to 500. You can decide to change the limits as you like. Also, so this is us setting up our chart. So this is where we are using the outer. This is us setting up our chart. You could also play with this depending on what you want. So everything is just for us to do our dashboard. So if you want to query the selected sticker, this is also going to get one. And the sticker is the selected ticker. So all this, so the query, you can see that the query are a bit dynamic because you select the information on the dashboard and the query gets run in the background and you get the information. So that's a bit about this. And the requirement file, these are the requirements that we're using here. So let's deploy this and let's view the information on our dashboard. So to scroll down to 7.2, and this is where we're going to deploy my CloudRun function now, and it's going to get deployed. So we're going to fast forward it as usual and see you at the end. Okay, so our cloud function is done, and this is the link to the application if you want to view the application. But I'm just going to first go to the cloud function part and let's see what's there. So we have our cloud one function. I'm just going to leave this. It's harmless. Okay. Get the cloud one function from there. So we could go to service. So this is the second one we just created, which is our stock dashboard. So we could click into it, and when we click into it, we'll be able to see the URL. So you can see the URL here and the one here matches. So you could actually open it from here. I just wanted to come through this place and view it from. So let's click on it and view our streaming dashboard. And setting interesting things up. And so we have our dashboard here. You can see how excited I am about. So you could actually zoom in, zoom out, depending on what you are interested in. You could do zoom in, zoom out, and see how the data actually interacts with one another. So if you want to see the pattern, you actually take a bit of zooming for you to be able to picture out the individual. So you can see that it has always been looking like a straight line. So you go more deep into it for you to let you see the curve path. And typically with stock data also, they don't necessarily just what's it called? They don't necessarily change in the minutes or at a go that way. Yeah, so that's about. You could also download it, go back to this format. Yeah, but that's not the only interesting part. We have some individual analysis here. And what I did here is to overlap this with the simple moving average so that you could see where the pricing at this particular time is going above the average or below the average. So this is simple moving average for it at this time. This is it here. So depending, and you could also select for a new stick here. So go to Tesla, and this is it. Just can play around with it. So this is the one for, and the price is over the simple moving averages. They help you to understand how the stock prices are going. So, and another interesting thing that happened here is the AI insights. So we have some AI insights. So move this here. We have some AI insights. So trading in the blue sky recovery mode significantly above previous historical resistance levels. Price action indicate a strong breakout phase with immediate support likely establishing near the 300 psychological level. So the Gemini sort of tried to suggest some things for you, and of course this is not financial advice, and you should be careful when viewing information. So you could also view the raw data, here, and a lot of things. So you could also view the individual summaries for each and every of the results. You could also view it from here. So you could change the sticker, like you could select different. So this is meta, and this is how it goes here. And you could also view the pattern. So this is telling us extended bullish channel. This price is drifting higher, but volume is stamping off, indicating a potential divergence that often precedes a sideways consolidation period around 660. So of course, if that summary is a bit too complex for you, could also view the individual summary here to see how it works. So that's pretty much everything I want us to go over today and about this pipeline. And as usual, you want to make sure you clean your pipeline so that you don't end up in a large bill that's going to make you sad or something like that. So it's going to also shut down everything so it's clearing the Dataflow pipeline. You should also kill the functions and everything so that we don't incur a large bill. So that's about that. So thank you very much for staying true to the end of this lab. Really nice. Us going through it together, seeing what we created, seeing our own AI-powered stock analysis that you could use. And the beauty in this thing is to customize it your own self, and you could monitor various things you want to monitor. And this could also just be an inspiration for you to do stuff on your own, something different at some other time. Thank you very much for staying true to the end. If you really enjoyed this lab, make sure you comment in the comment section. Let me know what you enjoy about it. Make sure and give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Do feel free to promote this video with your colleagues if you think they are going to benefit from it. I'm really looking forward to what each and every one of you is going to build. Thank you very much. Bye for now.